Creating different nail shapes is as easy as changing your nail form. Today I'm going to show you guys how to do stiletto nails in as easy as 1, 2, 3. Hey guys, Liz from the Nail Hub here, and I am coming to you from my brand new studio. I've been in the process of moving. I'm still in the process of moving. You can see my nails are not happy right now, but I have, basically gone for function over form recently, and I know that you guys are looking to get into how do we do different shapes. I covered the basic square nail when we did our first artificial enhancement, and I know a lot of you guys have been asking about how do I do stilettos, how do I do almond, how do I do coffin shape, and it seems very mystified because a lot of what we're taught is either just glue on a nail tip and cut the sides and cut it into what we want, or take a square nail and file it into the perfect shape. But really, when we want to create a different nail shape, we need to change our nail form. So I'm going to show you guys how we're going to create those different shapes that we're wanting to do. I am going to be using a brand new gel that we just added to the Nail Hub. I'm very excited about this because it's something that anyone can have access to. This is the number 3 Zero Heat Clear Gel. I really like the consistency of it. It's going to be great for all of the different levels of nail techs that are watching this. And even if you're a DIYer, it's got a good thickness without it being super runny and getting all over the place. And to start, we're going to need to use a nail form. So just ignore my nails. They're not cute right now, but we're going to make them a little bit better here with an extension. All right, so I've got my nail form. Now, if you recall from my first video about artificial enhancements, again, you can put the sticker on the back, but I showed you guys how to close a nail form and how to create kind of a tapered square. And we did that by just closing the end without completely closing it. And when we secured it on the finger, we ended up with a shape about like this. So you can see as we pinched it here, we were able to create a nice symmetrical square shape, and it did taper ever so slightly. All right, so what happens if we want to do a stiletto nail? Let's start with a stiletto nail first. So without getting into all the crazy notches first, I just want to show you what this looks like on the finger. So I've got my tapered square here, and again, what I would do is do my hyponychium notch here, and also my notches on the side. Make sure that the angle is good based on the length that I'm going to do, so you could even lift this up just a little bit so this tip becomes more in line with the cuticle area. But just talking about shape, not worrying about all of the specifics right now, just talking about shape, you can see that this is going to create a tapered square. So if I were to put my gel out to about this line or this line, I'm going to end up with a square nail. So how do I create a stiletto nail, and how do I create a different length of stiletto nail? A lot of you guys, what you're doing is you're just putting gel on a nail form like this, and then you're having to file the shape into the correct shape. I'm going to show you a little trick here. Okay, let's say I'm going to do a really long stiletto. I'm going to pinch my form completely closed. Again, keeping in mind that this center line stays in the center all the way down the nail. That's extremely important. But now you can see if I were to extend gel all the way out to the tip of this form, I'm going to get a pointy nail just from closing my form closed at the very end. I can also adjust the length by closing it to the length that I want to create. So let's say I want to create a nice medium stiletto nail that goes maybe somewhere in this ballpark. I'm just going to gently pinch my form closed until the very point is at the length that I want it to be, okay? So all of this is basically wasted paper now, but we're just going to leave it closed like that, and I can adjust my point of my stiletto to be right at the length that I want. Now, one thing to keep in mind is the shorter you close this, the more you need to keep an eye on the actual angle of your nail form. Okay, so this is the only thing that's tricky about stiletto nails is as we close the form closer and closer and closer to the finger, so I'll close it even a little bit closer, you can see that this tip right here, where the tip of my product is going to be, is actually going to be higher as it gets closed, and this starts to angle downward. You can ignore this whole piece here, but if we just look from like right here back to the nail, you just want to keep an eye on the angle of this tip, because sometimes when you close it, it's going to look like that, and you definitely don't want to have a nail that points upward, okay? So just keep an eye on the angle on the side, but overall, depending on the length of nail that you're wanting to create, you're going to close your nail form to create that shape. Don't just start with a square nail form. You're going to want to actually close your nail form to adjust to the length that you're wanting, okay? So that is how we create a pointy nail, or, a lot of people refer to the pointy ones as stilettos. Stilettos are actually, if I have some professional nail techs out there, or even some, European nail techs out there that specialize in nail shapes, a stiletto really is a long, long, long nail that actually does have a peaked apex. But I'm just talking about the generic stiletto nail shape that everyone refers to it, which is the pointy nail. So the pointy nail, when it's this short, it's sometimes referred to as a kitten nail. But when we're talking about long, pointy nails, usually they're referred to as stilettos, and that's fine. That's just the layman term for what we're trying to achieve. Okay, so here you can see I've got my nail form on. I am going to pinch this nail after I apply the gel, so that will help tuck in these sidewalls, but I have it into a nice point here. So I'm going to go ahead and apply my gel into a stiletto shape and show you guys how I apply the gel and how I use my sides to be able to form the different shape of nail that I'm creating. So I'm just going to take this opportunity to kind of scrub in my first layer as my base coat. I already do have gel on my nail. This is just for demonstration purposes. I'm not doing a full new fresh set, so just take this as, a shape tutorial. This isn't exactly how to do this from scratch, but I can do a natural nail later. You guys saw me do an artificial nail already from start to finish, and so I really wanted to just show you the difference in the nail shape and how do you create a different nail shape. Okay, so here I've got my form here. I have a little bit of a hyponychium notch there, but I'm not too worried about that. This is that zero heat gel I was talking about, so I really like this one because it does self-level really nicely, but it's not super runny, so it does make it easy for you to do basically any length or shape. Okay. So on the first coat, what I really try to do is just attach the gel to my real nail. I try and get a nice even coating, and when I turn to the side, I want to connect these corners, and I really want to come a little bit lower so that I have room to file. So I'm just going to basically draw a diagonal line from the tip of the nail I'm creating to the real sidewall of my nail. Can you guys see that? Let me zoom in a little bit so you guys can see. Okay, so it's kind of hard to see, but you can see that gray line right there. That's the gel. All right. This is very difficult to do on camera because it's hard to keep the gel from moving while I'm showing you and all of that good stuff. But you can see this gray line. So what I want to do is I want to come lower than my sidewall. I've got gel right here. You can see it in the reflection. And I'm basically just drawing an imaginary line out from that real sidewall with my gel. It's okay if it swoops a little bit, don't worry. Okay, and I basically just want to make sure that everything connects back to my real nail. And for the first layer, you can just make this a nice thin coating. And again, making sure you connect this sidewall of your real nail out onto the tip to the length that you are creating. Now, while I'm waiting for this nail to cure, I wanted to mention one quick thing. There are a lot of gels on the market that say zero heat, but the reality is that all gels create heat. And there's such a difference between the way people feel heat and how sensitive their nails are. It's very difficult to say zero. So even though this particular gel is called zero heat, I'll be honest, with my super high powered lamp and because I like to use thicker layers of gel, I do feel a slight tingle depending on the person. Sometimes ladies who are pregnant, people that have damaged nails, they're going to feel a little bit more of a zing depending on the gel that you're using. But I just like to give that little disclaimer out there that zero doesn't really mean zero because all gel creates heat as it cures. It's just part of the chemical reaction. I'm actually planning on doing an exothermic reaction video pretty quickly here to talk about why gel gets hot and why it burns and how you can prevent it. One way is flash curing, which I will get into. But now I've got this awesome extension, so I'm going to show you guys how to continue creating the stiletto. Okay, so I've got my gel on my nail form. It's completely cured, and you can see just with the reflection, if you were looking at this, you can see like that little shadow of gray on either side. See right there? Okay. So in order to get this off, I'd want to pinch really close to the gel, like so. If it doesn't release completely, you can also use your tweezers and just very gently run them up the side of the extension, and it will help release the gel. This is very thin. So I like to take my nail forms off at the soonest opportunity because it just makes life a lot easier, especially with clients. They have a hard time keeping forms on the entire appointment, okay? So before we even add more gel to this nail, I wanted to show you something extremely important. Okay, this extension, this isn't world's best extension because this is just me doing it on, camera, on myself, which is a little bit difficult to do. But I want to show you that this basically creates the length and shape of the general nail that we're wanting to create. So you'll notice I didn't create a big wide square nail that I'm going to file into a point. I actually created the point that I want to create as my actual extension. So even if you have a little bit of extra that got squeegeed onto the nail form, don't worry, you can always file that off. But what we're trying to do is basically create a nice general length and shape as if this were a glued on tip, except this is way better than gluing on tips because I'm able to create a custom and completely sealed enhancement on the end of this fingernail. So this is going to be something that's waterproof underneath the nail because a little bit of gel does cap the end of the free edge of the nail. And I'm able to create, like I said, that general length and shape of nail that I'm wanting to do. So there is my pointy. Now, to finish this nail, what I would do is I'm going to take my big excessive dollop of gel. Again, you can do a wetting layer first just to make sure that everything self-levels really nicely. You can file the shape before you do this if you really want to. Some people prefer to file the shape while it's extra thin. I find that to be more difficult for beginners because everything is so fragile that it's very easy to break your fingernail, your artificial enhancement before you're done even sculpting it. Okay, so I just do a nice wet layer on here. I'm going to take a very excessive dollop of gel. And because I need most of my product in the apex area, I'm just going to put that down, let it self-level. And then I'm going to walk this down the full length of my extension. Okay, right in the center. And you can, help adjust it a little bit, swish it down. But I really want to keep that product focused in the center of the nail. So again, you can turn it upside down if your room is warm. If you're having a hard time, you can turn your nail upside down and use gravity to really weight that gel back down. I'm going to put the rest of this gel on and then cure it so at least I can show you without this moving around. Okay, so I've got my stiletto done. And again, this tip is a little bit low for the length that I'm doing. My nail naturally wants to go down, so really a stiletto should be kind of like that if I were to pick up my nail. True stilettos don't curve down at all, they actually go up. So the tip should be a little bit higher, but this is just for demonstrational purposes, and if we want to do an actual competition style nail, this would be a completely different process. So you can see that I've got the general shape here. I've got the apex pretty well done, and also from the side, from the top, sorry, I have a nice smooth nail. I've got the length and I've got the point. And most importantly, when we're doing stiletto nails, I also have my C curve, and my C curve is really important because if I had just made a square nail or glued on a tip and then cut the sides to make a stiletto, my C curve would be very flat. So once I finish file this, you're going to see a nice curve on this nail. But this is how you shape a stiletto nail in general and how you manipulate your nail form in order to be able to create this shape to begin with. So I'm going to cleanse this. Get all that tacky layer off. Okay, and now I can finish file this nail. All right, so just like I showed you guys last time, I'm going to start with my sidewalls, and sidewalls means just the side of my nail. This will help really streamline the transition between my real nail and the sidewall of the artificial. Do this side. And again, I'm just doing one finger right now, but if I was doing this on all 10 nails, what I would do is I would do the right side of this nail and I would go through all 10 fingers and then I would come back and do the other side. So symmetry is really important, and also not flipping back and forth in your process is really important. It really helps you shave off time. So if you're doing this as a professional nail technician, then you do want to keep that same process as you move through the whole entire appointment. But since I'm doing this on myself and I'm just doing one finger, I'm just going back and forth and showing you guys how this works, okay? So I've got my sidewalls pretty well done. Now I'm going to turn my nail and look at it from the side. You can see this is really low because I had some little fringes here, but that'll come off real quick. Okay, so with a stiletto, what we want to do is we want to take the real sidewall of our nail and we want to blend it into this outer tip here. So I'm going to use the straight edge of my nail file, and I'm just going to gently file until those two line up. And you'll notice I actually turn my finger to the side so that I can see what I'm filing. Okay, so just do a little bit at a time when you're first doing this. Do a little bit of time until you can start to see this, and just keep an eye on making sure that you're not over filing any particular area. Okay. So I really want this side to be a nice straight edge. I'm going to come back and fix it a little bit more. I'm going to turn my finger all the way to the other side and show you guys this other side. Now for me, it's very difficult for me to file this way on camera. So I'm just going to kind of turn my hand upside down so you guys can see what I'm doing and I can actually file. Normally what I do when I do my own nails is I actually turn my hand all the way this way, and then I will either come this way or this way underneath my nail. But just to be able to show you guys, I'll do it this way, okay? So again, using the straight edge of my nail file, I'm just gonna connect my real sidewall with the tip of the stiletto. You're gonna start to see low spots. So you can see that I took my nail file up here, up the sidewall of this extension, and you can see right here is a little low spot, this part right here that's not turning chalky with the rest of this strip. So just keep an eye on low spots. If you find one that's really, really, really big, you might need to add a little bit more product. But in general, what you want to do is just go through and level everything out, keeping that apex where it is. Okay, so doing that side. Then I can come across the top, right around the cuticle area, very gently and carefully so I don't cut myself. Okay, so I just come right around. And then when I get to this side, I like to hold my nail file like a butter knife. So I'm going to come down here. Just make sure that that's nice and smooth as well. So you can already start to see, now that I'm getting this kind of chalky, I'm able to see what's the real shape and what's not the real shape. I am keeping my apex height here because I want that there. And now I've just got to kind of refine this tip. So there's a lot of ways to do this. I like to actually just make the whole nail nice and chalky. So I hold my nail file to the nail without, I don't want to file here because that's going to take off my apex. I want to actually file and transition this down towards the tip to make it nice and straight. So what I do is I put my nail file on top and I just look for low spots, and I just like to get this nail all chalky so I can see what the heck I'm doing. Okay, so you can see I've got one little low spot right here. It's okay. Just going to keep an eye on it while I'm filing. And if this was like a European stiletto, this would have much more of a ridge in the center, but this is just average Joe stiletto nail. This is going to be leaps and bounds beyond any of the other basic stuff out there. So you're going to be in a league of your own just knowing how to do a stiletto like this with a nail form. Okay, and then I do come back and forth and just refine that tip. Stilettos are supposed to be pointy. So just lightly come back and forth. Gel files really easily. I can come back on the top a little bit more. But really what I want to do is, as I'm filing this, remember we want to keep most of the product here in the center of the nail. We want to eliminate bulk here on the sides. We want to keep our C-curve underneath. And then from the side, we really want this to be a nice straight transition from the real sidewall out to the tip. So you can see it swoops down a little bit. I've got a little bit of a belly here. So what I can do is I can go underneath and really just make sure that this is razor sharp. Make sure that this is nice and streamlined, okay? So I really want to make sure that this just comes straight out from my sidewall to the tip, and that my apex is right here on the stress area. The longer the nail, remember I told you guys about the longer the nail, the more it's going to wiggle back in here. So we want our apex to be a little bit further back. And I don't profess, you know, one of the challenges about doing this kind of stuff on YouTube is that people immediately are like, oh my God, that's not how I've seen so-and-so do it, blah, blah. I'm not professing to be a world champion nail technician that does these things every single day, because day in, day out, people don't usually go for nails this long or this pointy. Most of the people that I've worked on want squoval, tapered square, almond nails, but this is a great tutorial to at least show you guys how to do a basic stiletto nail. And then if you wanted to get into the competition arena, or if you want to get into really extreme shapes, you can absolutely take it to that level. But this is just meant to be a basic, here's how you do it type of tutorial, okay? And I also do like to, right before I put polish on, I like to go back and just very gently make this perfectly pointy and centered. And then you're also going to need to do this again once you put color on it. So you're going to put some gel polish on here. You're going to put art on here, whatever you want. And that's why I like to make these extra pointy, because as we put layers of color and top coat, this tip is going to start to look a little bit more rounded. So you can make it extra pointy to begin with, and then right before you're done, you can take off the point, okay? But that to me is a pretty dang good stiletto nail. All right, and then let's put some color on this bad boy and take a look at what it looks like when it's all done. So I just decided to pick up whatever color was closest to me. This is Estemio Tokyo Wine. It's one of their Fatal Burgundy colors. And how sick is this bottle? Oh, I just love these bottles. They're so beautiful. We just added these to the Nail Hub, and I'm just so stoked about having this brand. It's just really pretty. Okay, so here is my finished filed nail. I dusted it off. Some of you guys were mentioning after my last tutorial that you guys like to push back the cuticle one last time before you apply color. You can absolutely do that if you want. Just be very gentle, so you can just very gently tuck the skin back, okay? There is going to be a little bit of like dust, you know, here and there. If it bugs you, you can take a cleansing wipe and just really get in there with your fingernail. But I don't like to use wipes per se usually because it does introduce fuzz. So you can use like a scrub brush or use a wipe, whatever you want to do. And then when you get the cuticle area, just stay away, especially with red. You can always get closer, but it's very hard to come back after you've touched the skin. Just one nice coat on the first layer. Get nice and evenly coated. Almost like a wet layer for your color. Okay. And then also as you're polishing, take in mind that you're not adding bulk to the tip of the nail. You don't want to be leaving a huge hump of product. So just keep an eye on it as you apply your color. Okay, I'm going to apply my second coat. So again, bottom half of the nail first, or the tip, whichever one you want to call it, free edge. Okay, then I can get closer to the cuticle area. Usually on the second coat it's a little bit easier because now you kind of have almost like a map for the gel. The color likes to go where the color already is, so it's usually pretty easy to just kind of get the second coat on. The first coat is kind of the one you want to be extra careful about, and then once you get that first coat on, everything just seems to fall in line. Okay, so there is my second coat. Now before I cure this, again, I want to take a look at it from the side, and if I have a little bit of a hump here, I can just pull that color back ever so slightly. That way I don't end up with a big hump on the tip of the nail. Also, this is also Estemio top coat. This one's a little bit thicker. This is the Art Top Gel, and I really like this one. It's actually meant for encapsulating art, but I just really like how it goes on, and it is very forgiving. So if you have a little bit of a dip, or let's say you have a little area where one part is too thick and one part is too thin, you can continue to move through your service and fix it later with subsequent coats. A lot of times when I'm talking with professional nail technicians who are struggling with their service times, or they're really struggling with being able to do perfect nails, or they feel like they mess up one thing as they do another, I always tell people, just keep moving through your service. It doesn't matter whether you're doing this in a salon setting or you're doing this for a friend or you're doing this for yourself. Keep moving, because otherwise you're going to end up spending 8 hours doing a full set of nails. It's going to take you forever, and you're going to be exasperated by the time you're done. It's not even going to be a positive experience for you. So I like to tell people, you can always fix it with the next coat, unless it's like something major. A lot of times anything like, for example, I've got a little bit of thickness here on the sides. If I just use my top coat, and if it's a little bit of a thicker top coat like this one is, I can kind of manipulate the nail shape just with my top coat. Okay, so you can see my stiletto is really looking nice after all the color, and you can also see that it does add bulk as you add the layers of color. So keep that in mind as you're sculpting, as you're applying all of your layers, your color, your top coat, your nail art. And then after you're done curing, check your line of light. Mine is a little bit wonky, but not bad. Pretty dang straight if you ask me. looks nice and glossy. There's a good angle for you. Perfect straight line of light means it is perfectly smooth from end to end right there on my nail. And so I do like to look for my line of light. There's a nice spot right there. And then right here, it's just a teeny bit bumpy, just a teeny bit. But check your line of light all the way across your nail. That's going to tell you whether or not it's perfectly smooth. And if you can get it that straight, you are winning, because that is really hard to do, especially with this length of nail. So practice that. I'm going to clean this nail, put some cuticle on, and then I'll show you the final result. All right, so here's my finished nail. Now, if you have any areas where you feel like, hey, I've got a little notch here or something, you can ever so slightly file at the very, very end. I often will go back and just refine anything that I feel like, you know, after the color, maybe it added a little bit of bulk here and there. I like it to just be perfectly laser sharp on the edges. So absolutely feel free to go and file a little bit. You can even get away with a little bit here on the tip, just making sure that that is not super pointy. You can round it out a little bit if you want to, or you can make it like razor sharp. This actually isn't as pointy as it looks on camera. Doesn't feel sharp to me. One of the most dangerous things about having stiletto nails is washing your face. I don't know if you've ever had stiletto nails on like this, but when you have stiletto nails like this and you're washing your face or putting, like every time I put face lotion on when I'm at a show and I'm wearing long nails like this, I cannot tell you how many times I accidentally slip, my finger goes in my nail and I stab myself. Sometimes I've actually made my nose bleed. It's horrible because I do things quickly while I'm washing my face or I'm applying lotion. But just be cautious when you have nails this long and this pointy, okay? So I'm super excited to show you guys this tutorial about stiletto nails. Hopefully you feel encouraged enough to be able to try this, and we will continue with coffin, which is very, very similar, except we're gonna chop the tip off of a stiletto nail when we do it. And then we're also going to do almond nails, which I think is probably one of the most common, one of the most elegant, and one of the most beautiful nail shapes is the almond nail shape. But I encourage you guys to practice stilettos. Definitely, if you are just getting started with extensions, don't overmark, you know, your expectations. Give yourself the chance to learn how to do perfect square nails or oval nails. Practice, you know, putting on nail forms, practice putting the gel on, practice filing. All of those things take a lot of time. It takes a lot of practice. And like they say, any expert has at least 10,000 hours of training. So think about 10,000 hours of doing stilettos and then you'll be an expert. So even me, I constantly take classes. I constantly am trying to perfect my shape, perfect my nail form application, perfect my filing, perfect my color application. There's so much stuff that goes into it. So please try it out. Don't get discouraged. Practice, and I promise you will get better, okay? And I'll see you guys again next time for another awesome video and our coffin nail shape tutorial. Bye.